And this one comes from our friend East Coast Coyote, Elliot, who asks, the fact that the Coyotes have to sign an entire blue line has come up a lot, but I didn't realize until this morning that they practically have to sign the entire team in Tucson. Have you gotten a sense of who the team views as the key roadrunners to bring back for next season, and how do they balance the contract process there, especially in light of 9 roadrunners having arbitration rights while still having to do a lot of work at the NHL level?
Hoo-wee. That's like the basis of a story right there.
It is.
Like, good
Shout
job
out.
with all of those questions,
Yeah.
because, yeah, I can't even answer some of them right now. I think if we look down in Tucson, everybody knows by now that the Coyotes do not have a single defenseman under contract on the NHL roster. But then you go down to Tucson and you're like, whoa, it's crazy down there too. there's almost nobody signed. Listen, Mavlab's probably going to be there next year. Max Zuber is probably going to be there next year. Soda's probably going to be there. Soda doesn't have arbitration rights, so I think Victor Soderstrom ends up back here for another season. Beyond that, I don't know what happens to him. But as far as everybody else, I mean, Vladislav Kolyachonok does not have arb rights either, so I would guess that they'd give him a longer look. But then it gets really, really interesting, because the bigger picture here is Bill Armstrong knows he has to rebuild this blue line entirely at both levels. There's a lot of work. This is part of, as I mentioned in the mailbag, this is part of the reason why they didn't want to ship out Nick Bukestad and Alex Kerfoot, because you're like, how many holes are you going to open up in this lineup that you got to try and fill with, mind you, with all the chaos swirling around this franchise right now? They're going to dive into the blue line, and I'm really curious. Petey, I don't know if you have thoughts on sort of some of the needs. We've talked about some of the prospects that are going to be here. Another one that could be in Tucson next year is Artem Duda, if they get that contract situation worked out. But they have a lot of work to do at this particular position.
Yeah, especially the back end. And you talked about it, like even the names you brought up now, Maverick Lamoureux, Zuber, and Artem Duda, those guys. I mean, I won't say anybody's not ready for the NHL. I don't know. Like, if we were to say Michael Kesselring was going to play the role he played this year, I think we would have both been surprised. We would have said that in August. So I don't want to say a player like Maverick Lamoureux can't, but he's injured right now, so he's not playing the end of this season. He's got to get rehab through this summer. He's going to be in a tough spot. So you look at these guys, and even at that depth, they're coming into play in Tucson. Like, you have 3 guys signed. The only name we didn't mention was Montana Onyebuchi is the only guy, the other defenseman signed for next year, and he's not playing
Yeah.
at the Coyotes. So
Nope.
you look at what they have to do to get things done here for the back end. Man, they've got a tremendous amount of work, and the name that came up with DJ Bean is Dursey. And Jersey's a guy that all of us said, hey, they got to get this guy locked up, but they got to do it right away. And that was in the first 20 games. The last 20 they still need them, but they need more than that. Like,
Yeah.
they need better. They need above that. They need a defending defenseman. And I don't know. Not only do I not know if they're part of their 6 right now, they're gonna have to go out and find somebody.
Yeah.
So the tremendous amount of work, and up front, they don't have many players up front in Tucson either that are signed for next year. You look at Connor Geeky and Aku Rate are the only 2 that are signed for next year up front that are not restricted. So. Yeah, Bill's going to be extremely busy. We talk about the off season. As soon as this season is over, man, it's time to get to work. Like, I've never seen this level of free agents at the big club and the American League club combined. Never. Like, this is a tremendous amount of work he's got to do.
Right. And then when you throw in arbitration rights, that complicates
For
things.
sure.
And listen, with some players, depending on their performance, it's not as much of an issue because they don't have much of an argument in arbitration. But there's so many guys here, and there are going to be a few who feel that they do have an argument. So that adds another layer of context to all of this. Go ahead.
Well, that brings up a guy like Jan Unique, a
Yeah.
guy that was asking for so much a year ago that barely had a place to play. He's got arb rights. What is the value for Jan Unique? And is at some point that Bill goes, you know what? This is a headache. I don't need to deal with this anymore. I'm moving on.
Yeah.
And so players like that, especially Jan Unique, who hasn't been able to step into the NHL like he thought he would. And then when he went to the free market, he goes, oh gosh, maybe there isn't all these teams clamoring for my services. And man, I don't know. You got to be careful when we talk about arb rights, because
Yeah.
especially if you're playing in the American League. So it's going to be interesting. I hope when I look at the list of arb guys in Tucson, I just really hope that nobody gets to that point in the American League. There are some guys in the National League on the back end. You talk about JJ Mosier's an RFA with arb rights. Kesselring's got arb rights. Velamaki's got arb rights. Dursey's got arb rights. Like, it's the whole whack of them. So there's.
Yep.
We've talked about arb a lot and what it can do to a player. And so hopefully they don't get to that point.
Yeah, one more thing before we move on is just when you look at Tucson too, you have to be careful. We talked about a lot of young players being there. You need to be careful that you have some veterans on your blue line. That's really important in the A. A guy like Steven Kampfer has been invaluable down there, so you need to make sure you have the right blend of veterans and young guys down there.